And every moment with Steffi and the financial evangelist, legit, great. Great nuggets over there. Well, we're still going to succeed in the marketplace. We always say you don't go to the marketplace and speak tongues over there. Right? There's a marketplace language, and the Christian is going to make good strides or make good impacts even in the marketplace. Now it's time for us to get into a very, very important conversation, okay? Yesterday, Ghana celebrated 65 years of being a republic. And the theme, though, to reset, let me get it real quick. It says, reset, reset, and renew for national prosperity. And we gave God all the glory and all of that. Well, today we want to get into what it means to reconstruct, literally, the soul of a country. What it means to change or to use principles to change the future of a country, of a nation, and also Africa at large. And to help us to have this discussion, we have Dr. Joshua Oppong Sarfo, Executive Director of New African Concept, right here. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning.
I hope you're well.
Very well.
Yeah.
Your end too?
Oh, we're fantastic. We're fantastic.
Thank
Did you
God.
enjoy okay, supposed to be holiday? Should have been holiday.
Yes, they shifted it
to Friday.
to Friday.
Well, yes,
To
but I mean,
Friday.
yesterday the nation went thanking God, how far God has brought them.
Yes.
And I mean, in the theme, like I said early on, this resets, to renew things
Reflect.
and reflect
And
on
renew.
where God has brought us to, and where we're going to.
Yeah.
And I also chanced on, a scripture that talks about how God is concerned about our health and also the prosperity of our soul.
Yeah.
I thought that it's only humans, like individuals that have souls. Nations have souls?
Nations of souls.
Where is that?
Yes, so thank you very much for the opportunity and then for having me on this show. And just like I think we were saying, that what makes a nation is not just the land, the water bodies, and then all the other stuff which are part of it, of course, but rather it is the people. So the nations or every nation is built by the people, or every society is built by the people that are within that system or ecosystem. So what it means is that if those people, and because they are human beings, and we believe that as human beings, we have the material and then the immaterial side. So the material is the body seated here, and then the immaterial happens to be my mind and my heart.
Right.
They are not tangible, but they are very much active. And in fact, it is the heart that gives direction to the mind, and then the mind gives direction to the body. So behind this material side is the mind and then the heart, which is the unseen side. So if it is man that builds a society, and man has that material and then immaterial side, it is only logical to conclude that then the society that he builds also will have the material dimension and then the immaterial dimension. So the immaterial dimension of the society is what we call the soul of the nation. And then the material side then becomes the architectural design, the infrastructure, the things we see physically. But beneath those physical things are also the immaterial side, and that is the soul of the nation.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Love that. So every nation has a soul.
Every nation has a soul.
I've been thinking how it is that Africa has not utilized its soul well enough to become a global player, to have a space at the table. I'm not talking only Ghana. You hear where I'm coming from? Because there are certain things that span across. We're talking leadership, we're talking economy, we have the most beautiful natural resources. We have the amazing brains that we export to the Western world to
Yeah.
make those places better. How it is that Africa is not able to harness these things, to get a place on the global stage?
Yeah, that's I would say a very important and though a pathetic question, unfortunately. But just like you are saying, and we are also discussing that every country or every nation has its soul. Now, it is the soul that directs the material. So the material, we have gold, we have diamond, we have bauxite, we have almost everything.
Lithium.
We have lithium, just name it. And so oftentimes there are arguments that are made that, well, Ghana and Africa, we've got everything. All what we need is to get sound leadership. And that if we get sound leadership, then literally everything is going to be solved. Now, it may be partially true depending on the context. But with most African countries, which we practice democracy, in engaging democracy, then it is not absolutely true that our greatest problem is a leadership problem. Though the leadership problem, we know that yes, we have serious leadership crisis. From 65 years of our republic, we have complained of poor leadership almost consistently. It should tell you that then there is a problem with the pipeline. There is a problem with the leadership pipeline that produces our leaders. And that is what it comes to, the soul that we are talking about. So the reason, in summary, that we have not been able to harness our potentials and our opportunities to bring about transformation of global repute is because the soul is weak and dying. And because it is weak and dying, and that is what grants direction to our intelligence, to our superstructure. That is the main problem. And by the soul, I'm talking of the values of the land.
Right.
So in summary, and there is this statement I keep on making, that nations are successful not because of their geographical location or because of their natural resources. Rather, nations are successful because of the quality of their value systems. Rich and strong values will produce rich and strong nations, and then poor and weak values will produce poor and weak nations. Africa or Ghana, we are poor and then weak, not because the black man is under a curse, not because of merely a leadership problem, though we have it, but it is because we have weak and poor values. And if we want to engineer a change, then it must stem from the inside out. And that inside out is that we must reconstruct. No land or no nation is organically given the values that brings about transformation. It is a deliberate effort, because for freedom, for you to have freedom, then you must master responsibility.
Right.
So the goal is that Ghana and Africa, we have all that it takes, but we will have to start from reconstructing the values that we then decide that these are the values that we want to build, and then run literally a national reorientation program and take us through it, so that with that new values, there is, even if we lose our gold, our lithium, whatsoever, we can build to global heights. We can build to global heights. So it's a value system problem.
Wow. I remember, I think, last 2 years, or I think 2 years, when the Movement for Change, they came up with their GTP plan. One of it was mindset, change of mindset and values. And so they were saying that, okay, if they had come into power, they were going to make sure that the mindset of the Ghanaian is changed, towards different things.
Yeah.
I've looked at, we've had discussions about values when it comes to marriage, values when it comes to employment, values when it comes to, but what are these? Take me to some of the values that we should be having if we're looking at the future of Africa, the way you're putting it.
Yes. So, several. Some of it could be, I always start with respect for time and human life. Now, so the prevailing, by saying prevailing, that is what we have.
Yeah.
We have even given it a name, Ganaman time. So that if we say that we are going to have the meeting at 10 o'clock, what it means is we're going to have it around 10:45. Now, life is time and time is life.
Right.
Because if you see an obituary of 70 years, that 70 years is nothing but a compendium of seconds, in fact, microseconds, nanoseconds, minutes, and all. Then you get days and weeks and months, and then that span of years. So when you break that year or that lifespan, you are going to get nothing but time. So time is life, and life is time. And anyone who does not respect time, in essence, does not respect life. And life does not give you what you deserve. Life gives you what you bargain for. And on the table of bargaining, you don't even regard life, or you don't regard time. And then it means that it is dead on arrival. So lack of respect for time will ultimately lead to lack of respect for human life. And when we take our system, Ganaman time, so we don't value time, and by extension, we don't value human life. So when you are giving, when the average Ghanaian is given a contract to build roads or to construct roads, because there is no sense of patriotism,
Right.
and he's not thinking of the value of the human life, he is obsessed with the profit he's going to make. Already, he will bloat the budget, he will use substandard materials. Within 2-3 months, when it rains, there will be manhole, there will be potholes, there will be all kinds of holes. And then we have accidents, road accidents, and sometimes we could lose as many as 5,000 people in road accidents in a year.
I think that should be just one person.
Yes, and we could have people who are maimed, about 25,000. And we just use them for statistical purposes.
Right.
That, this year we had this number of accidents, and then we lost about maybe 5,000 people. The greatest resource of any land is not her natural resources, but the human potential,
right,
or the human resources. Because out of that single mind, one mind is more fertile than 200,000 tons of gold. You cannot equate the value of one mind, if it is effectively engaged and engineered, to, name it, billions of gold. They are incommensurable. You cannot put them on the same scale.
Yeah.
And the reason is because these gold, for it to be mined, for it to be processed, it takes. So the human potential is the greatest potential. And the loss of one life must be so dear. And if we can lose hundreds and thousands of lives and we don't seem to care, that is because we have a value system which does not respect time and does not respect human life. So the new African alternative, what we seek to propose, is that instead of this, we must shift to value for time and value for human life. This is a value that, if it is engineered and then woven into our fabrics, it is one of the things or the values that will bring about transformation in leaps and bounds. Because economics or economic productivity is a function of time.
Right.
So if you don't respect and value time, it means that it is going to have issues on productivity and then economy and what have you. So one example is of value that we need to really inculcate in our system is the value for time and then human life.
Human life.
And maybe one or two that I may add is also a sense of responsibility. So the culture we have is a culture of dependency syndrome and entitlement mentality.
Right.
So the average person graduates and then he feels, because he has graduated from the university, there is, in fact, first of all, the government is entitled to give him a job. And even with that job, there is a particular kind of job.
Right.
Because, maybe I read philosophy at the, say, maybe University of Ghana, and then you tell the person to get into fashion, he or she feels that you have degraded him or
Yeah.
her. Maybe plumbing, maybe electrician, where he could have used the knowledge gained and then upgraded it to global competitive level.
Right.
But he feels that he's entitled to a particular kind of job, to be in suit and then tie in the air condition because I am a graduate of a university. Yeah, so that is what we have. And our culture is interwoven to build dependency, depending on maybe your auntie or uncle is in the US. So you'll have to come in and then take me over. So there is that system. In place of that, we need to build a sense of responsibility.
Right.
That each and every person takes up responsibility, that if it will be, then it is up to me. That is not to blame people and systems for why we are going through what we're going through, but rather to say that I am going to take up my responsibility. I'm going to own up my own life and then build. And by extension, as a nation, look at Africa. If you put the 54 countries of Africa, and then you put our leaders together, and then you are taking a microphone one after the other, and you ask the question, why is Africa struggling? Majority of the answers are going to be blame. Oh, it is because the white man came, and then 400 years of slave trade, and then followed by 130 years of colonialism, and then this, the neo-colonialist schemes, and then this. The African will blame everybody and everything but himself for his plight and woes. Okay. We are crying over the gold the British took so many years ago. The question is, what have we done with the gold that was left?
We are galamseying.
We are galamseying. It tells you that the problem is not what they stole. The problem is we have not harnessed the right cultural disposition to be able to build upon even what is left. And that's why we fight over it, we galamsey it, and then we are not even thinking of tomorrow or the future. And if there is time, maybe the last that I may add, as I said, there are several. The other point, by way of the values that brings about, key transformation, is what we have now is a sense of survival. The average person, his or her anticipation is to survive. Oh, Charlie man for survive. So we from dawn to dusk, we are working in the mindset of survival. That does not build transformational nation. Right. The value we need to replace that, which I said as the new African alternative, is a sense of significance and purpose. To live for self is to live with a mentality of survival. And to live for other people is to live with a sense of significance. So I am not going to, sense of survival leads to security. So there are many people who are in the nursing trainings, or they are nurses now, that they have no business being in that profession. It was because it has been told that one of the easiest way to have job security is that at least you go to the nursing training, if nothing at all, you are going to be posted. Instead of maybe going to the university, you complete, and then you are now struggling to get a job. So many people, especially in the nursing and then even the teacher training, they have no passion for the profession. They are just there on the account of survival and security. Whereas a sense of significance brings about creativity, innovation. What can I do to advance my society? What problems within my enclave can I solve to bring about advancement? These are questions when the mind settles on significance, legacy, rather than living for self, rather than just a sense of survival that we might just survive through. Another value is servant leadership.
Something Jesus did.
Something Jesus did. And that is why these kingdom values must be well taught and then nurtured and then deployed by the church into the system. And that's why when we started talking, I said that these arenas are places that the church must strategically advance and then deploy people there. All across. So servant leadership, as against what we have is the totalitarian, bossy kind of leadership, where leadership has been used as a tool to, extract from the masses for parochial, selfish, aggrandizing interests. But in place of that, we need to raise leaders. So as I said, our problem is that when it comes to leadership, the problem is we have a leadership pipeline problem. So it is not just a cry for a messianic leader who will take us to the promised land. Even if we have that kind of leader, the likes of Nkrumah, it can easily be intercepted because there is no continuity.
Right.
So our focus when it comes to leadership is to build a system that raises leaders even to the 100th year ahead of us. There must be a system that trains them, and that system must invest in them the idea of servant leadership. And with that, if let's say I'm a politician and then I am operating with servant leadership, because to be a leader is to be a ladder. That is to allow yourself that your people will now, step on your ladders or your steps so that they can see higher even than yourself.
Right.
That is what servant leadership is. And that's why it takes a lot of selflessness and sacrifice to really be a servant leader. Because a servant leader will say, who is a politician, will say that I am not sleeping, though not literally, but I am not resting or sleeping until I have the confidence that, let's say I'm an MP, so until I have the confidence that everyone within my constituency is sleeping well. So it is not seeing the masses in pain and poverty and ignorance and all kinds of difficulties. And then we are building mansions for ourselves. We are just, usurping the treasures for ourselves. What kind of mindset? And the sad thing is that even most of these people are in the mosque and are in the churches. So servant leadership is also another critical value that we must rewire our system with. That leadership is about service. It is about, and that is why, you see, we picked most of these concepts from our, shall I say, mothers, that is the British.
Yeah.
And which is where it is coming from. The reason why they say minister and then prime minister. So minister means servant, and then the prime minister is the chief servant. But normally with Africa, we adopt things without the substance, and then we just practice the superficial presentation. So when you are a president or when you are a prime minister, the president in the land is the chief servant of the land. And that is all leadership must be engineered towards serving the common good of the people.
Right.
So these are some of the values and several that I believe that if we are able to deliberately engineer it into our system, even without the gold, even without the bauxite and things like that, we'll be able to really advance.
Wow, fantastic. Great things right there. So that means that every individual is an asset to the nation, and that culminates into Africa and the entire world. Some people are using it to their advantage. Well, we've started. We'll get there. We've seen a number of things happen in our communities: crime rates, corruption. It's crazy, and like the values that you've mentioned. Take us to practically how we can start the healing process. How we can reset, so that it's not only a theme,
yes,
but now it's practicalized, because we see certain things that our parliamentarians do, and then we are having issues with it. But what we don't know is that children learn what parents are not even teaching. So we have people in schools now who go to school with knives or scissors. Today in the news, somebody was actually stabbed to death with the scissors from a neighbor.
Very unfortunate.
How do we heal to get to the point where it's not just a chunk of people who know these things, but it has become an asset to each and every one of us?
Great. Yeah, so practically, first we'll have to start with advocacy. That is level one. And with advocacy, that is with things that we are talking about. These are the conversations that must champion in the airwaves all across. So there must be a deliberate effort by all stakeholders to keep on advancing with the information. It must not be once a while, because it is not merely little drops of little water that makes a mighty ocean, but little drops of consistent water. Because if it just drops once in a week, if you are given 1,000 years, I don't think you can even get one cup full. So the information must be consistent and it must be deliberate. And all across, from social media platforms, the television stations, the radio stations, billboards. So it causes, I mean, more or less like a craze
Right.
everywhere. So there is a communication that is signaled, even with our religious fraternities, when they are, it becomes more or less like institutionalized, that every service must not close without having about 5 to 10 minutes talking about these values. In the mosque, our imams are engaged. So the average person wakes up from his social media platforms, he's just splashing, he's just being splashed with skits and, I mean, various forms. And you go to the newspapers, that is the print media, it is just also there. You are watching the television like this, it is there, it is there. Radio stations, there are jingles, there are announcements on it. You go to church before the sermon or the service ends, it is also being reiterated. Or you go to the mosque, you are seeing it, billboards everywhere. That is where it starts. There must be advocacy, where it must be consistent and then it must be power-packed. But advocacy alone will not solve it.
Right.
Because of the depth of the decay. As I said, the soul of the nation has really sunk deep. So advocacy, what it does is it raises the consciousness,
Right.
and then the awareness of the people. And because of the, the multi-factorial or multi-dimensional tributaries that the informations are coming from, it sends a signal to the mind that there is something I must give attention to. Beyond advocacy, then there must be empowerment. Now, the empowerment here is that there are people that are in certain specific conditions. And like Abraham Maslow's theory, the basic needs, if it is not sorted, to really give attention to, just imagine someone who is very tight with, let's say he doesn't even know where he's going to have his next meal.
Right.
And then you meet him,
issues.
yes, bread and butter issue. And then you meet him and then said, let's talk about reconstructing the soul of Ghana.
Reconstruct the food first.
Reconstruct the food first.
Right.
So then again, the stakeholders must be actively engaged that we want to get into the mind of this person. But this person is in a situational circumstance that seems to override and overwhelm his attention that will be given to these dialogues. So though there is one advocacy ongoing and it must be incessant, unbroken, then we also explore the elements of empowerment. So the empowerment is to provide more or less like temporal solution to reduce the fires, the burning fires. So that is where conversations around issues of unemployment. And even with that, we have things like unemployment. That is what we normally talk about. But there are things also like underemployment. Yes, and then underdeployment and other stuffs. So the crisis of unemployment, that is where we begin to talk about it. Churches, organizations, NGOs, and the government itself, as I said, the stakeholders. What can we do to reduce these tensions? And any other, like let's say the Kayayes, let's say the less privileged. Accra alone, last 3 years, as I checked statistically, Accra alone has over 90,000 street children. And that is overwhelming. So for this child in that situation, You don't dialogue on nation building. So the second level is empowerment, which is an all-inclusive stakeholder engagement and effort that harnessing and then exploring the specific persons and places, less privileged, and all categories of people who are in immediate fires.
Right.
So to the graduate who has completed, perhaps his immediate concern has to do with job or unemployment. So if we can start engaging people or that person in it.
Yeah.
And one thing about employment is, the empowerment is, if it is effectively engaged, now it gives you a leverage of influence over them.
Right.
And with them. That is when now when you invite him that let us now talk about weightier matters. He sees you that you have concern for his or her pressing needs.
Right.
And that effort gives him that ability that, okay, now let me come and then do that. Level 3 becomes mentorship. As I said, so the empowerment is it gives you access and it gives you influence.
Right.
And it gives them the cleared mind because you have helped them reduce the tensional fires
Right.
that might have clouded their perspective on things. Now they have a clear mind to now listen to what you have. Now you move to the level 3, which is mentorship. The problem of Ghana and Africa is a mindset problem.
True.
Which will not be solved by intermittent programs. It is not annual flagship programs or even quarterly programs that is going to solve it. All those set of programs are considered as part of the advocacy, where we come, we listen, we are challenged, we are charged. But when it comes to solving it, it must be nothing less than systematic, deliberate mentorship program. And especially with the young and emerging generation, we must channel deliberate effort and resources to reorient their minds.
We're in a world of politics, and people come in with, we should have just about a few minutes to go.
Yes.
But I'm thinking, how is this going to work where we're in a political system of this person comes and does what they want,
Yes.
and there's no national agenda to actually walk with or work with,
Yeah.
right? How do we, navigate through these political scene changes to be able to achieve that?
Yes. Citizenship failure precedes leadership failure
Right.
in a democratic setting. We would want to normally point fingers to the leaders, just like we are saying, okay, so this party comes, does what he wants, the other party comes, does what he wants, and then, so we don't have a national agenda that we are committing to. The problem then, the question becomes, now who caused them? Where are our leaders coming from? They were not thrown from
communities.
Jupiter or did not descend from Saturn. They grew from amongst us. So now the question becomes, are we, that is the citizens, are we culprits or we are victims? We normally take a posture, we take the victim posture. What the leaders are doing, they are chopping the money. But in reality, we are first the culprits. Unless they came by the barrel of the gun, then we will be entirely victims.
Right.
But we elected them. And when we elect them, it means that we are the kingmakers. So you don't appoint a king and then now cry foul that the king is not doing well.
Right.
The question is, what were the elements or the parameters you assessed before making that kind of
decision.
appointment? So the whole thing is that we must start from the base, which is both the bottom up and then the top down. We need to get the citizenry thinking and working right. And then out of that, now it will influence our appointment of leaders, our election of leaders. And then now by having the right kind of leaders, conversations of these national agenda, actually we have, but it is not actively engaged, though many people don't really know. Yeah, we have a 40-year plan, which I think started around 2017, which is actually there. But Many people are not even in the known. And we've had visions, talk of Vision 2020.
Yeah.
So we are good at sloganeering, committees, and then providing reports, but the political will to commit to the reports or the products of the caucus meetings is what is missing. And it is missing because citizenship failure precedes leadership failure in a democratic setting.
This is huge. So the honors doesn't lie on the leader. It's on you. It's on me. It's on doctor. It's on your neighbor. But it starts with you, your mindset, what you hope to see, what you want to achieve, and how you actually carry the next person along. This job is big. Leave the president and the leaders out of it. We're all in this pit. Oh, how I wish that we'll continue, because I know that Doc has many things for us to actually deal with. We're still building the nation. These are principles of nation building, which is very important for you as a business owner. Who are you going to employ? Well, how are you going to make that market work, even for yourself and for your employee? Whew, great things. I wish that this convo will continue, but we would have to go. That means that Doc would have to have you again, so that, I mean, the advocacy would continue.
Yes,
Yeah,
continue.
right. But thank you so much, Dr. Joshua Oppong Sarfo. He's the Executive Director of New African Concepts. So the name of the organization alone should tell you where his mind is, right? New African Concept. Africa is going somewhere. Are you coming along with it, or you are people who would help to scatter it? Don't be that person. So it starts with you. Well, we've had a great conversation from start to finish. Thank you to the Bank Hospital for supporting the morning show. And also, Aqua Clear mineral water is the best thing that can happen to you. You want to drink that, you want to get looped up and ready for your day. My name is Precious Biadola. We'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. And thank you for staying.